The Moon Boys blast straight through the stratosphere and head directly into the gigasphere. Is it going to be all sunshine and rainbows for the Pumpy Squadron? Well, let's just say the jizz is nearly loose. So if busting through the gigasphere into millions, potentially billions of dollars is something that makes you happy, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Get signed up to Phemex below if you'd like to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or trade. And without any further ado or magoo, let's absolutely do a deep dive into what's happening with the price of Bitcoin. Clearly at this point, we are above the previous lower high set at the end of August, a little over a month ago, around about 65,000. Currently, Bitcoin has pushed above it and even received so far one daily close above it. Now, you might say that's big, that's great, but let's look for something a little bit bigger. If we take a look on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, I think this is really important. We see that the last time on the weekly chart that, as you can see right here, if I get rid of this line, the last time that we received a cross, a bullish cross on the weekly MACD after being extremely overextended and basically entering a nice pumpy. I mean, this basically triggered when Bitcoin was about 27,000. It ran up to new all-time highs around 74,000. And then the MACD got a little overheated and it had a little bit of a, well, 7-month dumpy. But alas, you can see now we're about to get our first bullish cross since then. Now, the last time we see something anywhere similar to this on this chart is all the way back, if I actually zoom out a little bit, all the way back in August of 2021 after Bitcoin's massive move to the upside that took us to about 61 or 62,000 right before entering putting in its all-time high. And this is where altcoins really went completely bananas. Bitcoin squeaked out a new all-time high by a couple $1,000s up to about 69,000. Nice. But for the most part, it was altcoins that like had the crazy gains, right? Now, that's one similarity on the MACD, but if we look at that, it's actually not even similar at all to where we are currently in the cycle. Basically, I just made a comparison between this point here and this point here in terms of basically what happened, but do I think we're anywhere close to this type of situation where we have a couple more months and it's blow off top? Not at all, and I want to make a case for why I think that. But also, I do want to note that after this massive upside move, remember we had that dumpy, then we had this bullish cross, but then right after we got the bullish cross, after pumping from 29,000 up to about 53,000, it then took a couple weeks and actually went all the way back down to about 40. So after we got the bullish cross on the RSI, we actually had a little bit of a dump for a few weeks, but then we ultimately ended up going up. So all I'm saying here is just because we get a bullish cross right here doesn't immediately mean like, oh, bullish cross is in, time to go straight up. No, last time it actually happened to this scale, or at least, you know, after such a massive drawdown, before that, an even bigger pump, it actually dumped a little bit first and then lifted off. It kind of just retested. Now, I do want to make the case for why, though, I think there are similarities, but why I think it's actually pretty different. One of them being is that back here, when we had this, initial massive MACD pump, pull back for months, and then got a bullish cross, maybe similar to like we're seeing now, that was in August of 2021. Well, in August of 2021, that was right about here on the chart, meaning the halving was quite literally hundreds and hundreds of days in the past, and we were within about 100 days until the top, meaning we only had about 100 days left in the bull market last time it happened. This time, it's possible we have almost 400 days left of the bull market, meaning the halving was way more recent than it was the last time we had a similar MACD cross back in the last bull market. So that is to say, I think that really we haven't seen anything yet. I don't think we're close at all yet to a top for Bitcoin or for altcoins. But I do just think, again, history's never going to repeat exactly, so that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just because we're getting across here, we're getting across here, and we have exactly this many days, and then it's going to... All I'm saying is there's similarities, like it might rhyme a little bit, and I pointed this out to highlight, hey, maybe actually once we get this cross in a week or so, maybe we actually have a little bit of a, maybe a retest first or go up and then go up. But my point really is, I think we have way, way, way more. I mean, I think objectively, especially considering how the macro has been shifting, the liquidity has been shifting, the cycle has basically just started according to the halving and according to liquidity, which the halvings and liquidity cycles have been very interlinked, like they basically have so far, at least in history for the past multiple cycles, have been kind of, whether coincidentally or not, timed exactly the same. Yeah, I mean, I just think that we have way more time to go. But also, if we look, I want to look at this chart on the weekly for Bitcoin. As you said, what I just was pointing out, the MACD switching over. Really, ever since this RSI did start breaking out, things have been starting to heat up very slowly, as most people have been well, not most people, but I mean, surprisingly, a lot of people in the comments are still somehow bearish. I just don't get it, but that just makes me more bullish, the fact that I see so many bearish comments, because that means a lot of people are probably sidelined or going to miss this move. Or, I mean, if we're being honest, you need to have people not think it could ever happen for it to actually happen. If everybody on the planet believes it's going to happen, then it probably won't. But yeah, I mean, I'm still honestly surprised at how many bearish people are still out there, especially, right, Bitcoin's up a little bit right now. Let's say I post this video and an hour later it dumped $1,000. Look at the comments. People are going to be saying like, oh, I told you, here we go back to 50K, here we go back to 40K, without fail. And they've been saying that honestly since the end of 2022 as well, and they've been wrong the entire time, because really, if you go back to the beginning of 2023, end of 2022, we're up like 300% or something, right? We have been going up since then. Since right here, it's been an uptrend, it's been a bull market, and basically up until this point, for this about year, so many people were thinking, oh, this is completely a bull trap. But then finally, after we broke out here, and especially here, finally some people, a small, I would say, I don't know, maybe it's hard to gauge what percent of people switch to actually say, oh wait, maybe this actually is a bull market, a bull pump. Finally, people started to believe it here. But I mean, I'll tell you, I remember back here, oh my gosh, try posting something bullish in this range, everybody was just creaming. They were getting so turned on at the idea of, oh, it's the biggest bull trap of all time. And turns out the bull trap actually went up. So it was a bear trap. Absolutely. With the daily chart also, we have a single daily close above, potentially two when we get this daily close. As long as we close above like 64,000, that's going to be interesting. Again, clearly this chart illustrates how much so far of a higher high we've put in, as opposed to these continuing lower highs. Now we have this higher high, so that's big. This channel, this descending channel, look for it as support if we get a retest, if we get a pullback, a drawdown here. Very important that we do not repeat what we did here and what we did here. But to be fair as well, we have this first like real higher high in the charts here, which is promising. It's not even close, really. I mean, this higher high was about 65 or 64, a little under 65,000, but now it's concretely like above it. But I mean, the higher we go, I personally think the higher we go, but also especially the longer we stay above it and the more daily, and if we get a weekly or 2 weekly closes above it, that's just more and more confirmation that this is going to continue going up. You see the daily chart with the 200-day moving average as well. The weekly chart with the 21-day moving average. A strong weekly close anywhere above like 64,000 is going to be good. Especially when we see what kind of candle this is. I mean, for example, we talk about this candle. This was very clearly a bullish candle. And but keep in mind what happened. This was a very bullish candle right here, the August 5th weekly candle. And we got like a pump 2 weeks later. But then we got rejected initially at the 21 week. However, it wasn't bad, because then look what we've done in the following 3 weeks. So it takes time to play out. That's the whole point here, is that this was an indication that, hey, actually, this is probably the bottom. And it was, but during this week and this week, it didn't look good and it didn't feel good. And a lot of people were questioning, oh, maybe that wasn't the bottom. But ultimately, it held. And it actually kind of just held the lows of this like left shoulder of the inverse head and shoulder. And it ended up being good. So it takes time to play out. And that's why, again, I think it's so important to emphasize exactly where we're at and how good the structure has been looking this far. Now, also, the stock market isn't doing great so far today. The last 2 days have been somewhat red. It'll be interesting to see how the week actually closes. This is the last trading day of the week for the stock market. So yeah, that'll be big. The entire crypto market cap as well is right on the 200 day. So that's interesting. Altcoins are picking up a little bit. Altcoins are still not like pumping massively, but I mean, look at your portfolio, look at TradingView, and like look at what your alts are doing. Some of them are up. Actually, most of them are up more than Bitcoin. Whereas today, Bitcoin is up, 1-2%. A lot of these alts are up 3 to 10% even. Some even more than that. So alts getting some life is good. But actually, speaking of that, let's actually just look at Bitcoin dominance quick. Yeah, so for the past, about 10 days or so, we've had altcoins get a little bit of dominance compared to Bitcoin. Again, this is a very, very, very small move, so it's not like anything very crazy, but yeah, it's just showing that there is some life in altcoins. And really, I think that's kind of big because altcoins have just been smothered and completely dumped on for a long time now. Altcoins haven't been doing very well as a whole for like 2 years, right? But that's what you also expect at the beginning of these bull markets. Altcoins don't really outperform until pretty much towards the end. This is the entire cryptocurrency market chart. And as I've said many times, this area here where the crypto market cap was the most valuable that it ever was, around 3 trillion, altcoins were doing amazing back here. And Bitcoin was not at its all-time highs. I mean, it wasn't far off, but it was not still putting in all-time highs towards the very, very tippy top of the entire crypto chart. Altcoins were doing a lot of that. So again, the way I look at it, the simplest way is like this half of the bull market is usually very Bitcoin dominant, and this half is usually very altcoin dominant. That's the simplest way to look at it, and it's for the most part, it's reasonable and it's pretty true so far. Altcoins just tend to perform better much later in the cycles. That's when new people are in. That's when people are looking for riskier opportunities. That's when people have already made a decent amount of money, and they get greedy and they want to, instead of having a 10x, maybe they want a 100x. I mean, for pizza's sake, I remember watching videos a couple years ago with 1,000x's. 5,000x. I mean, just crazy greed. But that's what happens in FOMO environments. People get as greedy. I mean, humans by nature are greedy, right? I mean, altcoins and meme coins specifically, garbage coins, they bring out the most greed that humanity has ever seen. I mean, it's just, I mean, I personally don't even like the environment. It's so greedy and frothy, and like, that's usually the part of the cycle where I mentally check out towards the end of it, because it's like, wow, we had an amazing cycle. Now, every 13-year-old on TikTok is promoting some random coin that they created like last week. That's the part of the cycle I kind of hate, to be honest. But yeah, that's where those people turn $1,000 into 5 million or something crazy, and then they lose it usually. I mean, it's not like that's very common, but it's very rare to hold on to that. But the point is, you can expect that later. I think right now it's Bitcoin. And now with the Bitcoin spot ETFs, honestly, I hope the environment changes a little bit. I think Bitcoin I think it will maybe perform a little bit differently now. And I feel like it almost has to. Having a Bitcoin spot ETFs, I have a hard time seeing how it doesn't perform differently than the past. I feel like it will. And get signed up to FeeMix below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Without further ado.